Thank you for the opportunity. And before we go to the slide, my sincere thanks to the organizers and Dr. Anil Garg. And like he mentioned in the morning that no, they want to bridge the generation, the elder generation to the next one. I think the ones sitting here are the bridge, and you are eventually the people who are going to do a lot of work for our country in the future to come. So it's happy to be the bridge today. Let's go to the next slide. I will not take much time. I will just go over about 3 or 4 slides and give you the challenges and recommendations I have for the biomass supply chain part, because all these speakers here and all the speakers you hear in other segments as well, except technology, R&D, and factors like skill development, will come up with the last conclusion to say that the biggest bugbear in the room is biomass supply chain finally for whatever has to happen. So let's go to the challenges next. Before I go there, let me make a few bold statements, because I make a few, and they are not off-the-cuff statements. They are basically well-researched. And if you take your minds back to the third quarter of financial year ending 2021, you would have realized that the cost of energy shot up that time. And since that period of the third quarter, there was a rush in the market to substitute various forms of energy, and the hard-to-abate sector like cement and others as well, and also the industrial boilers which use densified biomass or otherwise. There was a huge surge in the demand for biomass-based applications to basically burn the biomass in various boilers, and that also had a negative effect in terms of the cost rise. So when you see this against the backdrop of the requirement of biofuels, whether it's CBG or E2G or any other form, and especially coming to the future, when you have sustainable aviation fuel in the market, I think it's going to be a deeper challenge. I'll come to that a little later. Coal will never be the same, again, is a statement I made in 2019 beginning in a sustainable aviation fuel conference, and I said that in 3 to 5 years, the coal market will get disrupted worldwide, and India will also see an increase in coal prices, never to come back. And that remains an open challenge of my statement of that time's research. Coal is not going to come back, so that means that the boiler segment of our industries is still going to look at cheaper fuels. And unlike 3 years back, when there was a little delta on the fossil fuel on the positive side, today the fossil fuel is on the negative side, and things like biomass are picking up a lot of use in the industry. Indian economy has to be based on the rural segment. That's a given. I'm not talking in terms of what the government feels or what you feel or I feel. That's a given natural, because it cannot happen today that you're going to feed 1.4 billion and counting, and tomorrow you will not have any more, anybody else left in the rural economy to even do agriculture. So I think it's a very good concern for our country. More the agriculture, more the waste, and more the waste, the more the utilization, lesser the dependency on fossil fuel, lesser the cost to the exchequer, and so many more benefits in the SDG norm and other things you can feel. Energy transition is a must, because you will find, unfortunately, in our country, there are many segments which think differently. They think nice, they think positive, but they think differently. They're not attached, they're not synergized. And that is why the theme of this conference as well is synergizing the energy. So I think I'll come to this point a little later, but keep it flagged for the time being, because every ministry have got the targets, they've got a vision, they've got a route which they're taking to achieve the vision. And in all these visions, biomass is getting stretched and pulled into different sectors and subsectors, as we understand. And energy mix for the country is not defined. So while we have a net zero proposition for 2070, nobody has put its head together as a considered opinion or a consortium or a think tank to say what's going to be the demand of energy in 2070. So let me give you a layman's term. 2070, first you have to map the population of our country. It's going to be 2 billion, 2.1, 1.8, whatever. And then see what is going to be the domestic and the commercial utilization of energy in the country at that time. And then for each segment, you're going to pick up a course which you're going to undertake. So it cannot be, any jadoo ki jhadi that you say that, it will be EV tomorrow morning. It can't happen, right? Because there are adjuncts to it about storage, about creation of batteries and everything else to happen. So we have to have a transitionary mode in every such segment as we go ahead, whether it's transportation, road transportation, air transportation, it's your consumption of fuel in your domestic households. It all has to transit through a process. Next, please. The challenges are as flashed, so I will dwell on few key ones. The first, like I was mentioning, is the energy transition roadmap. So hypothetically, I'll give you an example. Say surface communication. Surface communication means roads communication. So we're building up nice roads, everything is happening. Today, when you are going, you're going to shift from fossil fuel. You're going to go from diesel, petrol, CNG, and other forms of energy into eventually maybe hydrogen. But can you make it happen? Can you wait for it? No. So you'll have to have a transition in which you have ethanol. So you're blending about 10% today. You may go to E to G. You may go to electric vehicles. But what's the way forward? So if you remember, the previous CEO of the Niti Aayog 3 years back said that I will make all EVs by 2024. And people like us were very positive and skeptical at the same time because you can't do it. So what can you do? What you can do is, in a city like Delhi, all the transportation for the government, for the DTC buses, for your public sector undertakings, for your taxis, can become EV first. So there has to be a prioritization. In the next set of prioritization are something which connects 2 cities and 2 states and beyond. That's your commercial vehicle, that's your private vehicle, which are going to do. But when will you do it? Because today you don't even have a vision that when you have battery storage, is it compatible to various vehicles or not? We have not even given a thought there. So I think it's a very, kind of a structured progress which we need. And eventually we will end up with hydrogen, which is the best case solution possible for the future. If you see the macro and macro challenges of supply chain only, while finance and everything else remains a bugbear even for entrepreneurs and bigger companies in supply chain, today you got to see first the interplay of the various ministries. And like I mentioned initially in my statement, every ministry has got targets and goals which they're trying to achieve. So when you see a petroleum ministry, they want to do CBG, they want to do 2G, they want to do 1G, they want to do everything else going in that stream. When you see the industrial minister, the commerce ministry, they want to get down the carbon emissions of the industries itself. So you have densified fuel or biomass being used in boilers to replace the fossil fuel. So various ministries have got various kind of goals. Are they interlinked? I'm afraid not. But yes, are they thinking on the positive direction? Yes, all of them are. So there is a need to have an interministerial kind of a control over the entire ecosystem today, whether it's a PMO-led or a Niti Aayog-led, something somebody can do. It's a MNRE-led or a MOPNG-led, nobody knows. But somebody has to define it. Second is command zoning. 4 years back, people thought that biomass is a scare, right? It's burning. What are you going to do with it? Take your mind to 15 years from now and say a small geography. Let's pick up any geography. Let's call it Patiala for the discussion part of it. So Patiala today has got already approved LOIs for CBG, maybe more than one already, right? There are commercial industrial areas around there which need a conversion of fuel from conventional fuel, fossil fuel, to the biomass-based briquettes and pellets. And similarly, you can't stop the farmer, or you can't stop me, or you can't stop yourself tomorrow to establish an industry which can make particle boards, furniture, and be inputs for cutlery, crockery, bioplastics. You saw that garment. That garment and shoes are already in Marks and Spencer and being sold, across in Macy's in US. So the world is going forward, and you have applications of the biomass which are now going to contradict your biofuels dream, because biofuel wants the biomass at 2 rupees, 3 rupees, at best 4 rupees, whereas these commodities can give you for the same biomass 8 rupees, 10 rupees without even winking their eyelid. So that is where the thing is. So unless you create command zones, and the government of the day in the state says that this is the district of 3 districts command zone where you can have 1 power plant, 2 CBG, and XYZ, you cannot control the utilization of biomass. And today, if you have done a study of biomass and you say, I've got 3 lakh tons, which is available, I'm setting up a plant for 2 lakh tons, I'm good. I'm afraid in 10 years' time, you'll be having a shortfall, and that biomass is going to get diverted. So you have to deep dive and make command zones and do realistic assessments, and not necessarily rely on the big 4, 5, or 6 which are there, which give you a research value from the internet or some kind of a scan of the NTRO, which is not going to happen on ground. Financing schemes are galore. Today, Ajay mentioned, Alok ji, mentioned a few schemes there. If you go to the portals of AIF, you will see that right from the aggregation of biomass from the field to the logistic part, storage, supply chain, and going to the fork or the factory finally, where it gets converted, ample schemes of Government of India exist. I had a one-to-one meeting with the highest echelons of the SBI one day just to understand what is there. Unfortunately, it's not stitched together in one thread. So as an entrepreneur, as a company, you're going to pick it up in different threads today. And my recommendation, which will come later, is to create one project by the government or any PSU based on utilization of all the schemes, and then see what money goes back to the farmer first to make it more viable. I will not take more. The last point I want to actually labor on is the farmer as a stakeholder. In this entire game, any private sector company in supply chain today which thinks of gross margins 20-25% to make a financial model to go to business, yes, they can raise a lot of money from outside investment companies, but they cannot do supply chain for tomorrow. And the reason being, unless this farmer is your stakeholder, Fazurji mentioned about the Amul concept, not directly concerned, but I don't think so, it's going to be any different. It has to be farmer-centric. And like you have FPOs, if we create, I'm using a very loose term, FWO, called Waste Organization for Farmers, and today's schemes exist, 9 farmers and 1 entrepreneur can get together and make it happen. I think majority of this problem will be solved if farmer is a stakeholder. So let me give you a wild idea. I've been given it to the PMO as well. Say you give the farmer to start with 1 rupee, 2 rupee, whatever you want to give, for taking it to make your ethanol today or a SF or whatever you want to do. When you finish your entire process, there are intermediary products and end products, which very beautifully Fazurji mentioned how they are utilizing gainfully to earn more money, right? There's a high value kind of propositions to earn more money. Some byproduct of ethanol can actually go into the French industry to make perfumes for you as well. So that's the cost you are looking at. 100 grams giving you $10,000. So if you look at the entire spectrum, finally you go and make a profit. If you were to give a portion of that profit back to the farmers or a group of farmers or a group of sarpanches there, I think the entire dimension of this game can change. And that is why I'm very keen in my own entrepreneurial effort here on to get this done. And young people can join if you want to. So I think farmer as a stakeholder, so triple P model, the world knows. The 4P model, the 4th P is the people. And in my context, it's the farmer. If you can make this stitch happen, you will do a much better job. Last slide, please. Yeah, so the scales are large, gaps are large, challenges are large, and I just think that, our mindset has to enlarge to make this happen. And we can discuss it offline sometime, that what can really happen. Let's go to the recommendations, please. Next one. Yeah, so these are the certain recommendations. Please have a look at it because of paucity of time. We started late. I don't want to eat into your time and time of the esteemed panelists here. But these are the certain measures which I think should be implementable, and we should look at it at all levels. So macro level is nothing to say that everybody needs to get the skin in the game. So if you're a state government, it's a federal structure, you have to say a 99-year lease for land, or you have to participate as a state government with the land inside the project. Because everybody is giving good schemes, while we get gap fundings, everything is happening, but you are still leaving it to a private sector to do the whole stitch. I think the stitch has to come from within, and that is how you will have stakeholders who are accountable, and the project will not fail. Take your minds back, for example, to Jaisalmer and that area of Rajasthan, where a few decades ago, Suzlon came with a big, a thumping hand, and they made these wind projects. And what happened thereafter? Today they are recoiling back and coming to a survival mode, and they will again become profitable. But for good about 3, 4, 5 years, they were actually sunk, all these wind energy projects, because the land which they were trying to take was not in anybody's name. A small mistake for a big project of that nature is critical. And that is why the macro level part, the state government, the central government, and also the district heads and governance heads have to take to make the ease of doing business being more receptible. The other part is about skill development and the R&D. These are two phenomena which even Dr. Anil Rajdan mentioned today in the skill part side are very critical. So as you see the future evolving in the bioenergy, biofuel segment, you need to pick up all the job roles. You need to train for them substantially. And that is where you can train a lot of people in the rural economy, because these projects will not come next to Delhi. These projects have to perforce, the greener ones have to go greenfield, back into the greenfield land where the farmer is. And that is a given. 2012 and 2013, the country made the biggest mistakes. I'm not going into semantics of the finance and politics of it, but all are NPAs. All biomass-based power plants are NPAs today. I'm not even sure if any one has been revived in the last 4 or 5 years as well. And the beauty is that they were all created in wrong places, and everybody blamed non-availability of biomass that time for the closure or becoming an NPA. And it was absolutely wrong. Are there any foreigners here? Right, so let's be a critique. There are no foreigners here. The critique is that At that time, I went to the market as an entrepreneur or as a businessman, and I said project cost, I inflated to 100 crores, went to the bank, took the 50% drawdown, made it for 30 crores, 20 crores distributed, and then I said I can't work. This is not going to happen in this country in the future. It should not happen. And as young people, you should understand that project costing and everything is so critical today that you can't inflate it and get away with it. So I think the measures which are coming in financially are much more important to make a check on this. 3 years back, a Dubai man called me, and I'm sharing this personal example without taking names, and he had 11 LOIs for CBG in the country. And he was very clear that please sign off and say that you will give the biomass supply chain. I have to go to the bank and I have to draw down my project and DPR is made. And I got suspicious. I said, okay, send me your LOI. And he was like, I'll mail it. I said, no, just flash it right now. You're on online call. I want to see your LOIs. He showed me the LOI. LOI was signed and given by the government, say in March. He was coming to me 11 months late. And the government is saying in 18 months, put the project. He's not going to put the project, right? So he's going to do this mockery of a system from a foreign point of view, invest in my company, draw money from my bank in my country, and then make a fool out of me myself. So please be very wary of how the finances work, how systems work, and that's not where a country should go. The last part, in the micro part, I will just say is that the entire part from the farm to the fork at least. Fork is the conversion factor. May not be the factory, maybe a densification plant, maybe a conversion plant. This has to be a rural-driven effort to create more jobs in the country. And whenever you make a focus endeavor as an entrepreneur, make sure that this segment of the society is maximum benefited. As an entrepreneur, you can go for scales with lesser margins, but let the profits from each project be drawn down in 90–95% by the farmers themselves. You will be a greater success. And last but not the least, and is about the plantation part. Wastelands, I don't know how they are mapped, but I see on figurative value, there are a lot of wastelands. When I fly over an aircraft, I see a lot of wastelands. But when I go on the ground on a jeep or a car, I find that they're not there too much as they are said. But cultivation in wasteland for biofuels is going to happen because you will require those energy sufficient lignin, whatever you want, cellulose, chemical composition, those kind of croppings to happen in the future. So a project which takes about 10–20 acres of the project should cater for a storage of 50–60 tons, acres of biomass supply chain, should also cater for plantation thereafter as well, especially the hard to abate sectors like a cement sector. They have got enough land, 400–500 acres around them. So those are the people who should look at land, and for future projects of large scale, please look at this also favorably. Next, please. Yeah. So while I have tried to paint a picture, and you see this image, everybody will see this image differently. So either it's an ocean of opportunities or it's an abyss in which we're going to drown together. So you have to see for yourself as young people today. And when I say young, I actually mean the young people, and I don't mean us. You need to curate systems and ecosystems in which you know that this particular biofuel segment or bioenergy segment is for larger good of the rural economy. And that is where you should create measures for secular economy. And that is where intermediary products and byproducts should be the maximum cash intensivized projects, which you can lend and offshoot to bigger firms who can do that part for you. And you can concentrate on what you can do. So thank you for that. And we can take questions from you and we can interact offline. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Rohit Dev. I think you have presented the entire issues of the sectors that we are facing as of now. But let me ask one question. Did you have any interaction with the Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas?
I have interacted with all ministries.
No,
all 11, 12, including environment and forest.
So he's here. They have not listened to you?
No, they have listened. I spoke to Mr. Hardeep Puri last.
Yeah.
So I know what they're going to do. So very positive, and it's for him to disclose. I can't. And very, very stringent measures being taken by the ministry, and very proactive. So for everything, they are looking for solutions, and if they are finding solutions, they are willing to fund those solutions, provided you don't cheat.
Yeah.
Right. So I can only say that much. But
I'm glad.
If I may just add, from private sector or from a multinational side, I think the government is in tremendous supportive mode.
Yeah.
Means the problem is so huge that we all need to find out the solution, and we all are trying our best. I think it is.
So I can disclose my last
state and central government both here.
So I went there and I sent a small sheet. Sir may have seen it because it must have gone down as well. And I said, gasoline, 1G, 2G, and only two benefits I said. One was the GHG emissions, which he also showed today. And second was the health part, that $5 billion dollar being spent on a study by the World Bank report of 2018-19. I said, that's a case. So I said the delta between 1G and 2G, if you make it by dash range of rupees, there is industry willing to jump tomorrow morning. And he said, I will announce. I joked with him that day and asked, you're telling me as a bureaucrat or as a politician? And he said, get out of my office. So I'm out.
That's good. Okay.
But very proactive.
Yeah.
We are also working for this pricing of this 2G ethanol. I think soon it will be announced, maybe next 2-3 months maximum.
Thanks. But let me also highlight another aspect you have mentioned about the broad vision for net zero scenario 2070 and the interministerial coordination. India is a peculiar country where I think you have the five energy ministry: Ministry of Power, Coal, Renewable Energy, and then you have oil and gas, and then the atomic power. So there is, and there is no interministerial coordination. That's the aspect. But NITI itself has been taking initiatives proactively to work in collaboration with these ministries. And the earlier the integrated energy policy was formulated long back in 2008, and thereafter some initiative started in way back 2017 to formulate the national policy, national energy policy. But somehow it got stuck at the highest level. But we are working for the vision for 2070, and we have developed the one integrated tool that is called India Energy Security Scenario. So we'll be drawing the different kind of scenario up to 2070. So taking all into account all the aspect like the supply side sector, the demand side sector, all those have things to learn, and we are going to launch by next month. So it will be available publicly, and you can go and anyone can visit that. And we are working very closely with the industry associations. We have taken feedback from them. Some very positive feedback has come, and all have supported. So that you will certainly you will see some development in that, because the coordination is a major challenge among the ministries.